Welcome everyone to our Tuesday night chat. I'm Kelly Wilkins, your host for My Self-Reliance, and it's so good to be with you tonight. It's Tuesday night and it's a fun night in the chat room. Thank you for joining us if you're joining us live, and thank you for watching the replay. So if you're joining us for the first time ever, this is the place where we get together as a community, we get to know each other, and then we can reach out in person to lean on each other in times of need, because as an individual, it's self-reliance is difficult, but as a community, self-reliance is possible. So that's our theme for our Freedom Summit this year, is all about community. So community is everything. And so this is where we get together as community every Tuesday. Our Freedom Summit is in Kenthurst from the 24th to the 26th of October. So tickets have gone on sale from the 1st of May. You can grab those early bird tickets. They're on sale for a short time only. So go grab your early bird tickets there. That's the best discount that you can get, is those early birds. And especially if you're a member of My Self-Reliance, the even greater discount. And we also have a fun family gathering on the 21st of June. It's a barn dance, and it's a family fundraiser. So if you're in Sydney, get along to the barn dance at Rose Hill Bowling Club there, and we're going to have a fun hoedown. The theme for that one is flowers. So flowers and friends. So you can wear something flowery or bring a flower, and we'll decorate with sunflowers, because that's the flower, the theme for My Self-Reliance is a sunflower. Tonight we have an awesome guest speaker, and I want to welcome to you Alan Simpson. Welcome, Alan. Let me just bring you on Spotlight.
Yeah.
There we are. Good to have you here.
Good to be here. Great to meet all new people, new faces, and some familiar faces. So how blessed are we all?
Now, Alan and I met recently.
Are you kidding me?
And
Hang on.
Alan came to visit me on my property, and it was just really fortuitous at the time that he was traveling through, that he could pop in. And so it was so good to have him here, and he's an expert on all things property. We showed him around, and he showed us what things that we could do to our property to improve it. So it was so fun. And then we got talking, and Alan is an expert in many things, one being this area of frequency. So he's going to share with us tonight about how your frequency can impact your health. Another thing that Alan is amazing at is essential oils. So we might hear a little bit about that as well, or incorporate into his talk. But I know he had to take a call. Are you all right, Alan?
Yep, I'm back. Someone was just checking on me online.
Okay, very good. All right. So, Alan, if you're ready to go, I'll hand it over to you, and you can
I'm ready.
Take it away.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. This is going to be a talk that some of you may have heard, and it doesn't matter, because repetition is the key. The key to all knowledge is repetition. We can't hear enough, even if it's the same thing. And all you got to do is watch that lie vision that has commercials, often the same commercial, over and over and over. They never give up. So there's the proof. Media knows how to get us. So if they're getting us with rubbish, we need to get people with truth. And truth is hard to find these days. So buckle up and let's get started. we're going to be talking about cycles or waves per second. Now, does everyone know what a cycle is or 1 hertz? I'll go backwards and forwards here. So can you see that on the screen there now? See where it says 1 second? From there to there, that's one second, and you have a peak and a trough, peak and a trough. That's a wave. One cycle is one of those, and then two is 2 hertz. So a hertz is the audible sound of which we can hear things, is a hertz. Not a kilohertz, not a megahertz, not a gigahertz, not a petahertz, not a terahertz, none of those. It's hertz, HZ. A lot of people get that mixed up. But HZ is hertz, and that's audible sound. And our ears are tuned between 20 and 20,000 hertz. Doesn't mean there's no more sound above it or below it, because there is. Below it, you get 1 or 2 hertz, which is on the screen there. That's the way whales communicate. That's the way dolphins communicate. They can go hundreds of miles under the sea, sending out those amazing sounds they make, and some of them are so low we can't hear them. So that will have a lot to do with the mating. So that's a frequency. So I'll go back to the other slide now. So 1 hertz is that cycle. 1,000 hertz would be a kilohertz, and 1,000,000 hertz is a megahertz. 1,000,000,000,000 is a gigahertz. So you can see how you keep adding 3 zeros as you go up, right to petahertz, which is where the pineal communicates to our creator, which is what xenoestrogens are doing to block that communication. Chemicals, the stuff that we have in our houses that smell, that are made out from big pharma, are those chemicals that block that petahertz, which is the pineal. More on that in a minute. So does that let you understand what a hertz is? It's a wave. So if you had 1,000 hertz in that 1 second interval, instead of it doing this, it would do this 1,000 times in that 1 second. Okay, we actually resonate in the megahertz range. So we start resonating at about homeostasis is about 62 million times per second. So between there and there, you've got 62 million waves in that 1 second period. And that's where we resonate with. Up to 78, from 62 to 78 megahertz is homeostasis of a human being. Now, let's have a look at xenoestrogens. Have you all heard of that word xeno? Everyone know what a xenoestrogen is? You can, if you want to, you can unmute yourself if you don't know.
No, I don't really know.
A xenoestrogen is an artificial female hormone, and every single thing that's created in a lab is classed as a xenoestrogen. Even seed oils are classed as xenoestrogens. They are artificial female hormones. Now, what they do in the body is create lumps. Now, can I say another word that means a lump? It starts with C or a T. You get what I'm talking about? They're lumps that form in the body, and they're actually a protective measure of the body to contain these xenoestrogens. Now, there's one. Look at that, OMO. Now, I'd be embarrassed if I had that in my house, because I don't worship or bow down to Big Pharma at all, because that's where that stuff's coming from. They are xenoestrogens. They will block receptors. Anyone ever seen Chanel number 5? That's a very expensive perfume, I believe. And there's millions of these perfumes, and you can pay $200 to $500 for a bottle of perfume. They are pure xenoestrogens. Most of those bases come from Fragonard in France. I've been to that place. It's about 4 or 5 stories high, all synthetically produced perfumes, which go into the Hollywood stars, when they make their special blends and they sell it by the millions and they make fortunes out of it, poisoning the public. The unsuspecting public has no idea that these are called xenoestrogens. The earth, again, I'd be so embarrassed if I had that stuff in my house. That is only good for the grass, for the sun to completely destroy. I would not put that on my dishes because your dishes are porous. They absorb every single thing you put on them because every solid object is made up of empty space. And proof of that, put a lemon, squeeze a lemon and put it in a glass. There's a glass, put lemon in that and sit it in the fridge for a month. Then tip the lemon out. Guess what? You'll have a tide line all the way down. Why? Because the lemon will impregnate itself into the glass. The essential oils of the lemon will go into the glass because glass is porous. So don't think it's not, because everything is an empty space. Protons, neutrons, and electrons. There's a space between them, and that's what makes everything up. Colgate, do I need to say anything about that one? The chemicals that are in those things are deadly. They will cause lumps and bumps and all sorts of cysts and things that start with T and C and everything to be growing in the body. And people don't relate that one bit. Now those sounds are what you call, let me go back here. See the third level down where it says megahertz? It says 1 million. That's where they resonate in. Everything that resonates that we can touch, feel, or see is in the megahertz range. Again, I'll explain more of that in a minute. So they're what you call discords of sound. But I can't hear them. Well, you don't have to hear them, because remember, all we can hear is from 20 to 20,000 hertz, right? You've got kilohertz and megahertz. You've got two other dimensions above that, which these resonate in. Does that make sense? So they're a discord. If they're manufactured in a lab, they're a discord. Now, let me show you in audible form what a discord is now. Remember, they are in the megahertz range, those ones that I show you on the screen. Now we'll go down 2 dimensions into the hertz range, which is audible sound. Now, can you hear that okay? Kelly, can you hear that? I can see your face still. Is that?
Yes. Is it going to play again?
Now,
it was just really quick, wasn't it?
Yeah, but both of those sound the same, don't they? Now together. Now what are you hearing?
Oh, I thought I heard something the first time, but no, I didn't hear anything that time.
What about now?
Is anyone else hearing anything? No, everyone's saying they can't hear anything.
All right, so then that's not working. I do have an option, because I thought, just in case Zoom screws me over, I had another option. Talk amongst yourselves for 2 seconds and I'll be back.
Yeah, that's all right. I'll just ask Jen Draper, because Jen knows a little bit about estrogens, and I was getting a little bit lost when Alan was talking about these estrogens, until he said about how those work. The xenoestrogens work with the scale.
Sure. I can talk while Alan's not with us.
Yes.
Probably can't quite translate it into frequencies, but I can certainly explain from the mainstream medicine perspective. So in integrative medicine, which is my background, when we learn about estrogens, we talk about them in terms of potency, because we, men and women, both have estrogen receptors in our bodies, and our endogenous estrogens, which means the estrogens that are produced in our bodies themselves, have a binding affinity to our receptors, which is kind of like at this level. And when women are prescribed the contraceptive pill, that'll be like way up at this level. Hormone replacement therapy may be this level. But when you start looking at xenoestrogens and things that are like in the environment, that's how I think of xenoestrogens, is they're coming into us from the environment, whether we know about it or not. And that can be, through the digestive tract or through our skin. There's a lot of them, as Alan was mentioning, in personal care products and laundry detergents, etc., even plastics, microplastics. Those xenoestrogens, they're off the scale in terms of how tightly they bind to our estrogen receptors. Now, endogenous estrogens have got a beneficial effect on us in general. However, they're metabolized in our bodies, and the types of metabolites, the way that we genetically metabolize our estrogens, we can look at our genes and we can pick not just from like BRCA1, BRCA2 in terms of genes for breast cancer and things. We can look at it's called a Dutch test, or dried urine testing of complete hormones, which gives us from just a simple blood sample that you do over a day, it gives us a breakdown of those estrogen metabolites, and they're the ones that are in our body. And if we've got a preponderance of certain types of estrogens, then that makes us more likely, in the theory, to develop the C's and T's that he was talking about.
And the reason, just for everyone's benefit, the reasons we don't say C's and T's is because it can flag Zoom to
flags on Zoom and YouTube and all of these places. So we just try to talk generically and talk around these topics, and we don't use words that are going to cause triggers. So, but xenoestrogens is definitely not something that the general public is encouraged to learn about, and probably because they're just everywhere and very difficult to avoid if you use synthetic products. So one may argue or discuss why they are so prolific. I think we can leave that up to your imagination as to why, but hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea. So if something's triggering an estrogen receptor and it's therefore causing like too much of a good thing, we all know that that's not good. So I'm just looking at that question. Do these estrogen thingies help us find a strong mate that will give us the best chance to procreate? Well, yes, that's part of the story, but that's probably more going into pheromones and frequencies. But yes, definitely the contraceptives, the perfumes, that overabundance of synthetic, very powerful estrogens certainly is one of the theories behind why, say, for example, it's at a much younger age that girls are going, and even boys, going into puberty. And then at the end of the reproductive life, menopause is getting younger and younger because there's just so many xenoestrogens in the environment that our body is getting bombarded with them. So, of course, when your body has too much of a good thing, then what happens to the natural production of that thing? Obviously, it's going to reduce. So hopefully that kind of explains things. And
Thanks, Jen.
yeah, no worries. And absolutely, you certainly can circulate, dap some xenoestrogens in there, and that's that sex change method that they're discussing, and it's exactly what is used in big pharma for the hormone replacement therapies and these gender agendas things.
Thanks, Jen.
No worries.
Thank you for filling in. That is fantastic.
Hope you got the sound sorted.
Yeah, I think I have this time, and I know why your glasses are there too. That's good thinking. I've been meaning to get them a long time. I still haven't. But
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks for filling in. Let's try and hear this again. So I hope you got it. By the way, if you do have a question of something, ask me to stop and explain it another way, because it definitely is needed. The explanations are needed. So let me play this again now. Let me go back. Now what you're going to hear is two sounds. One's tuned to a solfeggio tone called 432, and one's tuned to diatonics 440, which was from Germany. Goebbels, the Nazi war guy that was quite close to Hitler. They actually were the ones that did the major change. But here we go. See if you can hear the two differences, and hopefully it works this time. And tell me if you can hear it. Okay, I'll stop. Can you hear that clearly?
No, no.
Okay. I'm going back to this other way because that did not work. When you play a particular sound in the solfeggio tuning, it's a shame you can't hear it. It sounds like you can't tell the difference between 432 and 440. 440 is your equitemperament of all tunings in the whole world. It's been set as a standard. 432 is the ancient tuning of solfeggio, which a bit more information will come shortly about what that means. And what happened during the late 30s and 40s, Goebbels set the tuning to 440 because it actually shut down the pineal gland. It's the same as what fluoride does. So all modern music is tuned to this frequency to cause a discord. So those sounds are discord, just like those chemicals you can see. So it's a very big shame because I'm not going to be able to show you the next sound either, because that was John Lennon. He made that song Imagine, and he tuned to 432. Now, when you hear that song Imagine in the original tuning, I don't like the words, but the music are daunting. It's like it's mesmerizing, the music. Beautiful, beautiful when it's tuned to 432, because that's a resonance with the heart. It's a resonance with the body. Now, the example of harmony is what you're seeing on the screen there now. That's a Fibonacci ratio sequence. And it just looks like random numbers, doesn't it? But they're not random in nature. That's nature's perfection in numbers. It's the spiral. And another one is geranium, which is this. That's another example of harmony. It's not a smell that you'll get in normal stores where you buy your oils. Because what you can't do, that's geranium, okay? There it is, a bottle of geranium. That's what you call harmony. This is what you cannot do, and I would never do this with anything else unless it is tuned correctly. You won't be able to see me, but I'm going to be dropping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could drink much more of that. That's geranium oil. Amazing harmony for the body. Another one, you recognize this one. That's frankincense. Another incredible harmony for the body. That has a resonant frequency of 147 megahertz. Not hertz, not kilohertz, but megahertz. And once again, because it is tuned properly, it has got all of the notes in it, I can do that to it. I don't know if you can see the drops going in, but you can have an IV of this in Ecuador. That's the proof of if the oil is pure or not. Can you inject it into the arms to remove those things starting with T and C? And they've been doing it for 30 years in Ecuador. We've had IVs of these oils ourselves. Our daughter has, and many other people I know have. That's what you call harmony. Harmony means it resonates with the human body in the correct frequency range, not in a diatonic range, because all of those chemicals that you see there resonate with discords of sounds, and they cause the body to not create the proper cell structures. And I'm going to show you in a minute how cells are created in the human body using sound. but it's a visual, but it's happening invisibly inside the body. And I'm really sorry you can't hear that because it's very, very. Okay. Another way to explain it: when you're in an aeroplane and you've got two engines on the wing, and you take off. Have you ever heard the sound on takeoff of the engines going woo 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 on the tarmac as it's in climb?
Mm.
Remember that sort of that warble going between the two engines?
Hmm.
That's because they're not harmony. They're not in harmony. I mean, I used to fly twin engines, a commercial pilot and a flying instructor, so I know what that sounds like. And when you firewall those engines, as in full throttle, and you're in climb, those engines are going woo 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 because on the tacho that you're looking, they're identical, but your body and your ears hear a warble, not a wobble, but a warble. It's woo 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 woo. It's going. It's weird.
Tremolo.
Sorry,
Tremolo.
tremolo. Yeah, 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 like a tremolo. And as soon as you get up into climb and you're on in cruise, then you start tweaking those throttles slightly. The tachos don't change because they're not sensitive enough. Your body feels it. Your ears, your head, everything your body feels it. And it goes from woo 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 to woo 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 woo, and they're in harmony. If you don't keep those engines in harmony, you're going to chew up fuel like crazy. And if you keep them warbling too long, you can actually blow an engine off a wing. And yes, it does happen. Has happened in the past until they started to work out what was going on. It's like when the soldiers used to march across bridges, they'd break step on the bridges because of the vibration of the step all being the same, the resonance would smash the bridge. So they had to break step as they were going across bridges back in the old days. So this harmony is very, very powerful when it's not in harmony. Discords are destructive. They break down cell tissue, which is aging. Another example is what you see here. Now, I've got two oils here. One's dill and one's spearmint. Whoop, there they are. Okay. If you had these in your hands and you took the lid off one, stuck it on your nose and smelt it blindfolded, dill. So you're doing this dill. Yeah, definitely dill. And then you take the lid off this one, smell it, you go, oh, that's spearmint. Now, how did I tell blindfolded when the only difference in these, as you can see on screen, they look identical, C10H14O, which is oxygen. And the other one, C10H4, that's carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. They're both identical, aren't they? One is called levo, one's called dextro. One's left, one's right. My hands, left and right, put them together, they're identical, but they're opposite. In chemistry, scientists call that nature identical. HRT, nature identical, but we know they're not. What is it that our body is sensing? The reason I'm showing you this is to let you understand how sensitive the body is when it can tell the difference between a double bond on the left. See at the bottom of the screen? See that it looks like this, like that? See how the one on the left has two and the one on the right has two? Right?
Makes all the difference. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the only difference. The cribriform plate in your nose sends a signal to the brain into the olfactory, into the amygdala, and it's right through the brain, and your brain detects a double bond. That's pretty crazy, isn't it? That is sensitive. You've got to look at this under a very, very powerful microscope to find that. So if dill and spearmint are so sensitive that the nose can tell, go back to that first slide and look at all those other chemicals. How sensitive is your body that can detect all of those synthetic pharmacia And what's pharmakia in Greek? The word pharmacy. What's pharmakia? Anyone remember what pharmakia is in Greek? Anyone? Yes? No? Maybe?
Don't know.
Okay. It means sorcery.
Nice. It's in
So,
the scriptures, actually.
sorry?
It's in the scriptures.
Correct. Sorcery.
Mm.
Pharmakia is sorcery. What are we doing putting these chemicals into our lives when our bodies are so sensitive we can tell a double bond on a benzene ring? When scientists or chemists start to alter these rings, I don't know if you can see my mouse, no you can't, but see the deal on the right. When scientists want to change that, they can put that OH radical, that double bond on the top there on the right. If they can actually put it on number 3 position. They can do it, right? But what happens if they try and put it on the 2nd position? They can't do it. Nature will not let it happen. It will go down the other side and go into that 3rd position. You cannot put that double bond of OH radical in that 3rd position, which is that oxygen with those 2 lines. Nature will not allow it. So nature can't duplicate what our creator made because it won't allow it to happen. So they can call it nature identical, but it won't be. Does any questions there? Does that make sense? I'm showing this because we don't realize how sensitive our bodies are, how incredibly made we are to detect purity and discords. Our bodies tell the difference. Now, there's an example there. Oh, set up professional audio in audio settings. Oh, I'm not going to go there. We're just going to have to go over it. It popped up on the screen then.
That's okay. We can't see it.
Yeah. Okay. So you can see the human body when the frequency drops below 62. Look what happens. Colds and flus. So if you want to know what your frequency is, if you've got a cold and flu, it's going to be below 62, which is around 58. Candida is 55. Look at Epstein-Barr. Epstein-Barr causes chronic fatigue. It lives in the spine. 52 megahertz. That's pretty low. That's way below homeostasis. Look what happens when cancer appears. That part of the body is resonating at 42, way below homeostasis. Death, well, 20. Now, different oils have different frequencies because each oil is actually not the oil, the tree resonates with another part of the human body. Basil is the lowest of those frequencies, which is 52. Australian blue cypress from Darwin is one of the highest at 528. Now, if you had a processed foods, if you had a just go straight to dry herbs or fresh herbs or an oil. Look at a dry herb. It resonates from 12 to 22 megahertz. A fresh herb is 20 to 27 megahertz. The lowest of the oils start at 52, except for if you're looking at Valo, it's around 40. It's a blend. But the singles start at 52. So if you had basil herb or dry herb, which one would you take in preference if you didn't have an oil? You'd take that one that was a little bit higher because the frequency is actually the oils that are in it. But once you distill it, it becomes a lot more powerful and the frequencies increase. So a dry herb, example, if basil was 20 as a fresh, when you dry it, it becomes from 12 to 22. So out of the two, I would definitely choose a fresh over a dry. But if I didn't have a fresh or an oil, I would do dry. If I had a dry and a fresh, I'd choose fresh. If I had a dry, fresh, and an oil, I'd choose an oil. Obviously, because the oil is what is actually gives the plant the life. It is the lifeblood of the plant. I won't go over these. There's all sorts of different frequencies because every oil has a frequency double within the organs of the human body. And there's another one. Now, here's an example. Peppermint resonates with the brain and the vagus nerve at 78. There's a blend for the liver, it's 82. Frankincense resonates with the human blood at 147 megahertz. By the way, frankincense is the love frequency. It resonates with when you put this into a petri dish, it alters those cells starting with C, and it can convert them, and it has done it through IVs. Juniper resonates with the kidneys and the ears. Well, we know that the kidneys and the ears are connected via an energy. Heart is 84. Helichrysum, that's a very strange plant, comes from Croatia, and it resonates with the hemoglobin. It's 181 megahertz. Now, Valor, bones and cancer. Now, I'll leave that at 47, but sometimes it actually goes down to 40. But it resonates with bones and cancer, so it's very good oil or blend to have to increase the frequencies of the body so that it resonates with a body that's actually low in frequency. By the way, coffee drops it, sugar drops it. There's all sorts of chemicals drop frequencies of the human body. Lavender, it's for cell repair, skin and brain. It actually will stop a burn in its tracks. 118 megahertz. Thyme, I don't have the frequency of that, and lemongrass I don't have either. But thyme oil gets rid of brain plaque and it increases glutathione. And those people that have got the methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase gene, which is the MTHFR gene, have trouble creating glutathione. And it's the glutathione which when it's powerful enough, it burns off toxic waste and chemicals, and it gets used up. So you got to create a lot of glutathione constantly to be able to burn off the chemicals, toxic chemicals that get into our bodies. Lemongrass is for cholesterol. It's a balancer, connects connective tissue. Amazing product when you start taking lemongrass in drops when it's distilled. Can you see this picture here? That shows you, take a screenshot if you can, because pancreatic support, look at all those different distillations there. Every oil in each category resonates with that particular part of the body or that organ. Look at brain health. There's frankincense, sandalwood, helichrysum, melissa, vetiver, lavender, brain power, envision, valor. Lymphatic system, myrtle. Myrtle the turtle, that's for the thyroid. If you have a slow thyroid, myrtle on here on the thyroid is brilliant for it. Liver health. I'll move through this. So if whoever's going to take a photo, and I'm going to go to the next one. But what this shows you is every tree that's been made by our Creator has an affiliation with another organ of the body, or many different parts of the body, or there's many trees that resonate with different organs in the body. And they clean, as Jen said earlier, each one cleans receptors. Here's an example. Here's an example of receptors. See them? They're called tuning forks. Now, see this here? That is a discord. I can move it up and down. These are tuned identical. They're both 432, the solfeggio frequencies. If I put one of these on one side of the room and one on the other side of the room, and they're both connected, that one's got a microphone and that one's got an amplifier on it. If I hit that one, this one will resonate. That's called a sympathetic response, which is insulin coming out of the pancreas as a sound, looking for the receptor that's on the cell that has the same sound. That's what you call sympathetic response from coming out of the pancreas, which is insulin, looking for the insulin receptor. Now, this is called a xenoestrogen. I can move that up and down here, and if you do move it up and down, what happens? It changes the sound of what's coming out of the endocrine system. This can no longer hear it. So if you're looking for serotonin or epinephrine coming out as a sound from the endocrine system, and it has a xenoestrogen on it, sorry, it should be this way. I'm talking back to front. It's coming out of the endocrine system as a pure sound, pure tone, and looking for the receptor, and the receptor has a blockage. It could have a chemical on it, and that represents the chemical. Changes the pitch, and no longer can this resonate with this one. Okay, because I was looking at it I'm opposite in there. So did that make sense? That's what you call a xenoestrogen blocking receptors, and that can cause you to become a type 2 diabetic, or if it's serotonin, epinephrine, or any of those happy, sad hormones, it can cause you to become depressed if your body sending a signal out and you can't hear it. All of those chemicals cause those blockages. And it's beautiful to hear when you actually have those connected and you can hear the difference. That's what measured those frequencies. That no longer exists. There's a few companies that have these, but Bruce Tanio invented this device, and that measured frequencies. It measured the protons, neutrons, and electrons, the speeds of which they actually are traveling in the vortex of what you call the frequency of physicality. The frequency of physicality is carbon-12. Carbon-12 is 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. Interesting numbers, aren't they? That's physicality. Because when you were talking about hertz earlier, that's a wave. When you're talking about kilohertz, that's also a wave, which is sound also, but it's in the frequency of communications, radios, TVs, phones, telecommunications. That's in that range. It's still a sound. It's a wave. When you get to megahertz, where we are, where physical structure is, if you can touch it and see it, it's a wave, but it's also another wave. So you have a convergence point and a cross. And at the cross, the atom is formed, and that atom is carbon-12. 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. And if you change the direction, the spin, the distance of any of those three, you have an infinitesimal amount of substance you can create. Glass, plastic, anything. If you can touch, feel, and see it, it's a carbon-12 life form. And which means the number of that is 666. I didn't create that, by the way, even though you know what that number represents. So if I was the bad side, if I was Lucifer and I wanted to exalt myself above the Creator, because Lucifer wants to be able to create, what number is he going to take on for himself? There's only one number he'll take. That number is 666, because it equals creation. Is everyone still following? We're all still awake? Here we've got live blood analogy, dark field microscopy. What I'm showing you here is what you call rouleau. That's blood under a microscope. See those plates all sticking together? They're called erythrocytes. And that's bad blood. That's like a heart attack or a stroke waiting to happen. And at some point, when you have fatty food, every single person will have blood like that. And that's what you call music creating those actual circles. Here's another one. This is after somebody put Valor on their feet after 20 seconds. Now, I've physically done this experiment myself. So is Tony Boutros, who does live blood regularly. And I used to read this in a clinic in Sydney. Penrith, sorry. And I've seen this happen. You put Valor on someone's feet within 20 seconds, the blood is clean like that. Those little bits floating around in there are called chylomicrons. They are fats that have snuck through the gut into the bloodstream. And if there's a lot of them, it's called leaky gut. Now, leaky gut is a condition that the cell structure inside the gut starts to drift apart and food leaks through it because a positive and negative normally pulls them together. The pH changes and it becomes negative, and you get leaky gut. So the food that's in your gut starts to sneak through into the bloodstream. Lemongrass pulls them together. Lemongrass pulls connective tissue together. It helps to stop leaky gut, helps to stop cholesterol, helps to stop plaque, it helps the heart. I mean, there's so many reasons why people that are taking that lemongrass is actually helping to clean the cholesterol out of the arteries and balance the cholesterol. That's another subject, that's a long subject. I won't go into that one at the moment.
Adult human can...
Oh, hang on. So what I'm about to show you now is a video of the complexity. Now, I'm showing you this because it's complex. This is not what we want to learn, but this is science.
Adult human contain...
Can you hear that? If you can't hear that, yes?
Toward the equator of the cell. During metaphase, all chromosomes are aligned at the equator of the cell, called the metaphase plate. Anaphase begins with the degradation of proteins that hold sister chromatids together, freeing individual chromosomes. The free chromosomes are then pulled by their kinetochores to opposite poles. At telophase, a cleavage furrow forms in the center of the cell. This indentation is made from a constricting belt of actin filaments surrounding the inside of the cell's circumference. Chromosomes cluster at opposite poles and begin decondensing as the nuclear envelope reforms around them. The spindle apparatus disassembles as the microtubules are broken down into tubulin monomers that can be used to form the cytoskeleton of the daughter cells. In animal cells, cytokinesis completes cell division by extending the cleavage furrow to completely separate the newly formed daughter cell.
Okay, that sounds like complete gobbledygook for someone that doesn't understand that language, right? The only reason I showed you that is to see cell division. You had one, now you have two. It was a frequency that caused that to happen. But if you look at science and anatomy and physiology, that's not the way they explain it. That is the way they explain it. But it's music, it's frequency, it's sound that causes the cell division. Here's another quick one. Now, can you hear that?
Yeah, we heard it when you first started playing. Yeah.
Can't hear it now? Let me start. Can you hear that? You couldn't hear that. Or yes or no?
Yeah, try it again.
Okay. I'll explain first what you're looking at. You're looking at, this is cymatics. You're looking at sand on a board which has a speaker going underneath it, creating a vibration. Now, what's happening in the human body is what you're looking at here under sound. You just saw a cell divide. One became two. When you see this sand or the salt on this table, you're going to see one cell, then you're going to see two cells as the pitch goes higher. Then you're going to get so high that you're going to see dozens of cells forming. Now, as the cells are getting more complicated, the higher the frequency, minerals are added, which will be the salt or the sand. It's a representation of why we have minerals in our body. Because as you're creating more cells, you need more sand and cement to create that structure, which is the purpose of minerals. Okay, so you're going to see the higher the frequency, the more complex the design. Remember, this is hertz. We are megahertz. So we are much more complicated than what you're going to see here, but it shows you the difference between a harmony and a discord. At the moment on the screen, you are looking at a pure discord. That's like chemicals in the body. There's no shape, there's no cell division. As soon as it hits a particular pitch, you now got harmony because a cell forms. Then as it gets up higher, the cell dissipates. That's called a discord. Then the next level of frequency, the cells develop again. That's called harmony. Does that make sense? I'll play it anyway. Here we go. One big cell. Harmony. Now, as it breaks up, you'll see discord. All of those notes are discords, adding minerals. There you got 4 cells, 5 cells. Discord sound. That's chemicals. That note was harmony. Harmony, discord. You can, those tones that you're hearing are going through harmony, discord, harmony, discord, harmony, discord. Adding more minerals. Many of you have probably seen this before, but haven't related it to the fact that that's how cells divide in the human body. I'll just speed it up a bit. Okay. I'll shut that down. Did that explain cell division, harmonies and discords? Feedback? Anyone open their mics?
Yeah, amazing.
So in the body, when you get exposed to discords, your cells don't create good copy. That's age. That's aging. We're all aging and we're all exposed to so many chemicals in our environment, and not to mention the chemicals we bring into our house. We don't need dishwashing liquid. We don't need to wash our clothes in Omo. We don't need to be immersing our hands in stuff when we're washing our dishes, putting it in the dishwasher. All this stuff is discords. And that causes the cells not to divide and give good copy. Concept pitch 432 gave positive effects on consciousness, they found. Yep. Now look at this number. If you divide 8 hertz, which is the alpha brainwave, by 432, which is solfeggio, you get 54. What's 54 related to? If you multiply it by 2, you get 108. Multiply it by 2, you get 216. Multiply it by 2, you get 432. There's the frequencies. That's multiplications of the brainwave. And it's very close to the Schumann resonance of the that resonates through the earth. It's pretty close to 8. Okay? 864 is, of course, double 432. And that number's significant as well, but I won't get into that number at this point. Now, who's seen the pianola piano or played a pianola piano? Yeah, beautiful, aren't they? That's an example of notes in one of these bottles. Okay? Now, when you get the notes of a bottle, to get the purity, the pure sound, the pure tone, so that it causes cells to divide, not mutate, because not all oils are the same. They have to be tuned when they extracted or distilled. So what you're looking at now is what they call in science, in a science term, GC gas chromatography or mass spectrometry, a GCMS. Now, when you look at a chart that has been distilled, that's the chart from a distilled oil, see this long one on the right? That would be called a note, and if you played that note, it would play long. That would hang on, isn't it? That would be. I'll turn this up a bit. Maximum volume. And stop. Okay. Now, if you went down a bit to the other side, you'd be a quick one. See the small notes? And if it was a little bit longer, it'd be like that. So each one of those holes in the paper causes another note to be played. That's how an essential oil is distilled, and they're all in harmony. Now, when I play this, you'll notice what the song is purely by the holes. So your ears will hear the song. Okay, you all know what that song is? Okay, so your ears interpreted the holes in that paper to know what song it is. So if you got a GC and MS of this, you wouldn't hear it. But remember how sensitive the body is to vibration? When I showed you dill and spearmint, you could tell a double bond, which was on the left, to one that was on the right. You knew straight away. Your body knows what a pure tone is and what a discord is, because that allows cell division to happen or not to happen, or create bad copy. And bad copy, well, what's bad copy? What can that cause? T's and C's. Okay? And too many people are getting sucked in to big pharma thinking that's safe, when all we're doing is causing harm. And if people have MOA or GSX, GPX, which are gene mutations, they're single and nucleotide polymorphisms, SNPs in the telomeres or the double helix. If people have certain SNPs like MTHFR, they are more susceptible to T's and C's when they come in contact with certain smells than someone that's not. So it doesn't mean if you smell you're going to get that, but if you have that certain SNP or that gene, you got 20,000 of them, and you do come in contact with that, yes, you will get a T or a C. It all depends on the gene pool. And because we're gone so far down in history with husbands and wives marrying and sex and all this sort of stuff, the gene pool's getting all mixed up. So that's why now 50% of the population have the MTHFR gene mutation. A lot of people have the GSX, GPX mutation, MOA. There's so many hundreds and thousands of these different gene mutations or SNPs that causing issues in the body, because we're all born with a gun. And as we go through life, we keep loading bullets into that gun. At some point in our life, the trigger gets pulled. Oh dear, where did MS come from? How did I get MS? How did I get motor neurons? Where did Parkinson's come from? What? Oh, it's just a random thing I got. How unfortunate. Well, it is unfortunate. It's horrible. But because we go through life loading these bullets into our gun, we never know when we're going to pull the trigger on what disease. So this is why we've got to be so careful going through life to get rid of chemicals out of their lives, get rid of the discords. Don't bow down to big pharma or sorcery. We need to remove this from our lives completely. There we go. Can you read that? 1939, that happened. Thank you, Rome. I'm not against Catholics, nothing against Catholics. I don't like the power, but nothing against the person. 40,000 petitions from musicians. They petitioned against changing that concert pitch from 432. They changed it to 440 in October 1953 by the International Standards Organization, ISO. That was criminal. Nobody wanted it. If you go into history and look back at that time, none of those guys wanted it. It was forced on the population. Raising concert pitch above 432 disassociates the connection, the consciousness of the body, and creates all social conditions in humanity. The 6 solfeggio frequencies include. Now, before I get on to that, we're in South Australia, and we're in a very, very old house, and I had a very, very old grand piano. And when I measured that grand piano, it had never been tuned for 50 or 60 years. Okay, it was a very old house, a very old piano. I measured that piano's frequencies. The A note resonated 444, which is a solfeggio pitch, which means when you play the C note, it resonated with 528, which is the love frequency, which converts DNA into healthy DNA, which is the same as what this does. This is also the love frequency in 147 megahertz, 3 dimensions above hertz, but still the same on the same octaves, but just much higher. Okay. So what happened? They sold the house. The grand piano stayed in the house. And I got a phone call a few months later, might have been 6 months later, that they said, remember that piano that you were testing and it resonated with the Schumann resonance of the earth? I said, yeah. They said they had to throw the piano to the tip because when the tuner came in, tuned it to 440, the thickness of that cast iron that made up that grand piano split down the guts. They had to take it to the tip. It was ruined because it had resonated with the Schumann resonance of the earth for at least 50 years. It couldn't take the pressure because all of those empty spaces that made up the cast had a particular frequency it resonated to. So as soon as they altered it, it was like an opera singer smashing the glass, hitting that particular note. Fascinating.
Alan, can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
If we are used to listening to a 440 hertz because that's what we're now listening to every time.
Yeah.
If we start listening to a 432,
Yeah.
would we appreciate it? Would we?
Well, yeah. Well, that's now, okay. Example, if you get somebody that's been drinking carrot juice for 10 years, then you get somebody that's drinking Coca-Cola for 10 years, both of them are very, very happy with what they're doing. The body's adapted. Somebody can smoke for 40 years and their body adapts. And you give a cigarette to someone that has never smoked and they cough their lungs out because the body hasn't adapted. Our bodies have adapted very nicely to diatonics. So when you swap over to solfeggio, it's going to sound different. To some people, it will form tears to happen. And I was one of them when I was in Boston. We went to a Jewish synagogue on the true Sabbath, and they were singing in a cappella, and I was having trouble containing the emotions in my head. I was going, this is weird. So I got out my phone, which had a frequency meter on it, and I measured the frequencies that they were singing. They were singing at 444 hertz, meaning that the C note was 528, which is the love frequency. That was solfeggio. And as soon as the music came into it, as in the piano and the guitar and the organ, the piano and organ and piano, electric piano, it was straight away changed the pitch of all the people singing back to the diatonic 440. And then instantly the emotion disappeared. So, yeah, it does make an incredible difference to the body if you do able to sing with it. And I'm trying to learn the guitar and I can't tune it to 440 or 432 because everything I'm listening to and playing with is 440. So it makes it very challenging. But look at this. You, mi, fa, sol, la is different to do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. These are 6 notes, and I just mentioned 7, which is our standard. Okay, look at the numbers here and the names. 396 equals liberating guilt and fear. Next one, undoing situations and facilitating change. Transformation of miracles, DNA. There's your 528. Now, you only get the 528 when you tune to 444. Sounds confusing, but it's all numbers. 639, connecting relationships. 741, awakening intuition. 852 is returning to spiritual order. Now look at the numbers on the right. If you add 3, 9, and 6, you get 18. Break it down, 8 and 1's 9. 4, 1, 7 becomes 12. 2 and 1's 3. Next one. 5, 2, 8 becomes 15. 5, 1, 6. And repeat. 936. 936. Who knows what 936 is? Very significant number, because what you're saying then, Kelly, is a culmination of all of those notes does make a difference to the brain. Now, there's no point me clicking this because you're probably not going to see it or hear it, but I could have a go. Can you see my screen? See this here? 936, pineal gland activation, solfeggio meditation frequencies. 936, pineal gland activation. Where do you see the pineal gland or the pineal? Where's that mentioned in history? Anyone know? 936, 936. Activation of the pineal. Now, do you remember there was a Bible story about Jacob climbing the ladder? So the 936, when you look at the biblical record of who climbed the ladder in the dream?
Jacob.
Yeah, Jacob's ladder. Now, do you remember what it said in the Bible when he woke up from his dream and he looked at the ground?
No.
When you get a chance, look it up, because it says, I pronounce this place pineal, for it was here that I saw God. Sure. So it was the pineal that allowed him the vision to see the Creator and to see the ladder and to have that wrestle. Our whole existence, because of the dark side's job, is to shut that thing down, because it is the communication point, which is what all the xenoestrogens are doing. They're shutting down that communication point, so we cannot communicate to our Creator. And we start accepting all sorts of lies and silly stuff that has nothing to do with eternal life or salvation. And this is why we don't want chemicals in our house. We don't want to worship the beast. We don't want to have discords in our lives, because it does cause disease. There it is, pineal, for I've seen God. And you can look that up in the Bible yourself when you finish, because that's exactly what it says. Oh, come on. Remember I said there was an interesting number, 864, after 432? Remember that? Yeah, funny how the seconds in a 24-hour day is 864. Divided by 2, there's your 432. Stradivarius violin, first tuning was solfeggio, 432 hertz. They didn't want to tune it to anything else because they didn't want their instrument to be damaged. Tiger Woods golf ball, how's that? 432 dimples in it. Because it went furthest. Now, if you get 432 and multiply it by 432, you get Einstein's figure for the speed of light. I don't go along with that, but that's another subject. But that's where they're using these numbers to create a so-called science.
For about 99% of all known forms of carbon,
your head if you can hear it.
It is the isotope of carbon that consists of 6 protons, 6 electrons, and 6 neutrons. 6, 6, 6. Does that sound familiar? After oxygen, The second most abundant element in the human body is carbon-12. On cremation, the body returns to its carbon-12 state. After hydrogen, helium and oxygen, which are all gases, carbon-12 is the most abundant element in the universe. Carbon-12 is also one of the 5 elements that make up the human DNA. Thus carbon-12 is indeed the most crucial element as far as life as we know today is concerned. This is probably what the writer of the Revelation meant when he said that
666, carbon-12. Average heartbeat, 60 by 60 times 24 hours in the day is 864. Interesting number. Divide that by 2, you get 432. Pythagoras states we're 2 octaves below God. 6 times 6 times 6 is 216 times 2 pairs the number again, 432, and there's 864. It's embedded in so many aspects of our life. Look at that. Add it backwards, what number do you get? Carbon-12, creation. Standard of time is 60. Minutes in an hour, 60. Seconds in a minute, 60. It's 666 again. Okay, so questions.
Wow, you covered a lot of ground there, Alan. All the concepts of finding frequency in our food and our music and, you know, everywhere around us, and how we can bring those frequencies in harmony with our body and our health. So we did have, I do have a few questions. So it kind of explains how music can heal, as well as how food can heal when you feed it the right things, and when you and then I guess as well, words have frequency.
Yes. Can I add something there? There was anyone know Dan Winter?
No.
Anyone with that name? Dan Winter is a quantum physicist. Is actually quite a wonderful guy, good friend. Lives in France, and he did the harmonics of the heart and bliss. I mean, he's all over YouTube. You can Google Dan Winter if you want to look up some of his stuff. And he stayed with us for a night, and we asked him about language, and he said he did an experiment once, and he got a physical double helix, okay, and he got a spotlight in the roof. He hung the double helix via a thread, so the light is shining through the DNA, right? And then on the ground, he had butcher's paper, divided it into 22 segments, like a pizza. He then commenced to rotate the DNA through 360 degrees. You know what he found as he rotated it every 22nd of a degree, as he turned it? The shadow that formed on the paper was each letter of the Hebrew alphabet in the shadow. Now, what that showed him was that, and I fall short of this all the time because I still get angry at things, and I don't get angry at people, I get angry at things that break or that should never break. And because everything we say is actually a frequency, and it creates physicality. Remember, God, when he spoke, he sung us into existence with the melodious voice, arranging those 666 carbon-12 protons, neutrons, and electrons to show us or to create us with music. So language that we speak is literally creating the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So language creates shape, which creates us. That was a mind blower when he explained that to us, that fancy how our DNA has embedded in it the Hebrew alphabet.
Ah, that is beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful. So we had a question from Josh who said, how do you know which oils are tuned and how do they tune an oil? I love Jess's answer. Your intentions can tune an oil, holding it in your hand, dropping it into the palm of your hand with the intention of what you want the oil to do. Powerful
Yeah.
stuff is the mind and the voice. So yeah, is
Well,
now the oils are already come pre-tuned when they're come from Young Living, and I use
yeah.
Young Living oils. But I didn't know that you could actually tune an oil yourself.
Well, when you get, it's the same process. It's very similar to cracking crude oil out of the ground because you have columns when they put crude oil in and it goes through a column. They heat the oil, and at each point of that column, there's a spout that comes off, and you can get off all the different distillate. You can get natural gases at the top, and you get petroleum and all the different oil products as you're going up through the height of the cylinder. So you get different products out of it. Essential oils are the same. You can crack an essential oil and get the nutrients out of it, the notes can come out of it. Like lavender, you can get linalool acetate out of it. You can crack linalool out of it. You can crack linalool out of it. You can crack any form of phenols, sesquiterpenes, monoterpenes, phenylpropanoids, esters, aldehydes. You can crack each one of those I mentioned has hundreds of notes attached to them. So you can crack any of them off and you can put one note into a container which would smell like lavender, linalool. You can put linalool acetate all into a container. You can get a 44-gallon drum of it and it could cost you maybe $200. It'd be a pure synthetic but smell exactly like lavender. But it doesn't.
Oh, that's why you can get cheap oils.
Correct. You can crack them off. Now, you can tell if an oil's pure or not. You're looking at about 20 or 30 different incredibly sensitive tests that you've got to put it through to prove if it's actually real or not real. So when you're looking at say lavender has a signature in the GC&MS. There's chiral rotations as well, left and right spin of all the molecules. It's very complex. But try and put it simply, that player piano that had all of those notes in it, in the piece of paper, I've seen the GC on a wall that's about 25 meters long of a GC analysis, and you can see all of the notes, and it looks like that piece of paper on that player piano. So what happens, they join the tops of all of those notes like this, so it gives you a signature of lavender. So when you then distill another lavender and you do the GCMS, you've got to see the same superimposed pattern to see that all the notes are there. And there's over 300 notes in lavender. But when they distill lavender in the public, in the standard essential oil industry, because the perfume industry regulates it, you only need 4 notes and you have lavender. So they're all synthetics. They can be pure notes, but because they've been extracted, all of those other notes are still in the lavender. You've now got a xenoestrogen lavender. So you couldn't put that on a burn. And when you look at the bottles, it says pure 100% lavandula angustifolia. They all say it. How do they get away with it? The perfume industry, they don't care, right? So they're actually distilling lavandin, which is spike lavender and lavandula angustifolia together, and they call it lavandin, which is very high in camphor, but it's cheaper to produce because you get 28 gallons an acre instead of 5 gallons an acre out of the original French lavender. So the farmers go broke producing the true lavender. So they've got to produce lavandin because you get much more yield of oil. But they write on the bottle 100% pure lavandula angustifolia. How do they get away with that? Easy. They crack off the camphor because it obviously changes the smell, and they add a linalool acetate, which has no smell. and they bring the volume back. And then they can write on the bottle 100% pure lavandula angustifolia because it has a similar signature to the real lavandula angustifolia. The perfume industry is a pure bastard industry. Sorry, I've got to swear, but it is. And nobody understands it. And the aromatherapists don't want to understand it because they wouldn't be able to use what they're using. They would have to change. And they don't want to change. Pride's got a lot to do with it, I guess, because they've been trained in aromatherapy. And I can understand that. But you have to call a spade, and you can prove it. Because if that company is not injecting essential oils into the arteries as an IV drip, then you're not going to trust that oil. These guys have been doing that for 30 years, injecting it in Ecuador, Nova Vita Clinic in Ecuador, for many reasons. And there's the proof. No company's injecting essential oils. And it cures. It does. It cures so many issues in the body. Candida gets rid of it in a heartbeat, literally. And I've witnessed it personally with my wife, with Linda.
When I went through my thyroid, I was rolling it every couple of hours on my neck, the lemongrass, and it was a blend with frankincense and a few other things in it. And I felt the difference so quickly. Stanzi wants to know, where does the body's frequencies come from?
Come from internally grounding it externally. Well, what that device, Bruce Tanio from Chaney University in Washington, the frequency machine, the BT3, measured the protons, neutrons, and electrons. So if you have, I don't know if you can see this, bit of paper. That's a very raw picture of an atom, okay? Protons, six of them, protons, neutrons, electrons, and 6 in the outer shell of the electrons. Okay, the numbers aren't there, but I just do it fast. The minute you alter, now what that device was doing was reading these positions. So if this outer shell went from going that way to going that way, you've changed the object. If the outer shell went from there to there, you've changed the object. Every single change of that atomic structure of the protons, neutrons, and electrons, any change at all, gives you the infinitesimal amount of physicality in our known world, because there's so many options in this. That's why God made that atomic structure. Now, the way I can explain atomic structure is, or a vortex. These are vortexes of energy. So if there's a floor, and if you had wind coming up through a tube, invisible tube, and you were blind and deaf, and this was whirling around at 5 miles an hour, and you walked across that, what would happen if you had a dress on at 5 miles an hour?
Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, blow up your dress. Correct. Now, what if you change that? We're only talking about, say, 5 hertz, right? 5 hertz of frequency. What if you took it up to the human body resonating at, say, 72 million times per second of that vortex of wind coming up through that same position? What would you now have? What would happen if you walked into it? Anyone? Sherry, you know.
You wouldn't have a dress.
You know. Yes, you would. You would have a dress. You'd still have it. It would become a physical pole.
What?
You would not be able to get through it because the resonance is so high you can't penetrate it. It's spinning so fast you can't go through it, and you wouldn't resonate with it one bit. It's a solid structure. That's a wall. So every single thing you touch, feel, and see has a different position of these, creating different vortexes of energy. So we are literally a vortex of whirling, spinning electrons and protons and neutrons, which makes us up. It makes up your phone, makes up this aluminium, it makes up the wood. Every single thing is made up of vortexes of energy. That's why you can't walk through a wall, because you're not resonating with it. And that's why you can't start your car off in fifth gear or sixth gear, because you need to start it off in first gear and then get some speed up and then go into second gear. And you know what I mean? You've got to resonate with the gears. Likewise, if you've got two cars speeding down the highway doing 100 miles an hour and you have the windows open, they're resonating together. You could pass anything from this window into that window, anything at all. But the minute it's slowed down or sped up, you're now a discord, and you damage whatever it is you try to put into that other car, because the wind would catch it and it'd blow it away. Make sense?
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, amazing. The more you talk about it, the more it blows my mind, and the more you realize that God is in control of the whole lot.
Yeah.
The whole lot, the creation.
And what God has joined together, let no man put us under. What's that related to that we know of?
Marriage.
Marriage. Yeah.
Marriage.
But what about what God put together? Let no man alter or only take out part of the notes. He wants us to have the full spectrum of notes, not parts of it. Because the minute you do that, you've got a xenoestrogen. All perfumes are xenoestrogens. And when you take omega-6 oils out of sunflower, you're extracting the oil from the seed. You've now got a xenoestrogen because it was meant to be eaten in the seed. Right?
So let's just boil it all down really quickly, because I know people longer than we normally would. So basically, to avoid xenoestrogens, get back to nature as quickly as possible and avoid all I was going to say pathogens, processed foods and anything that's not naturally made can have your xenoestrogens attached. And then to heal your body, you want to get back into those frequencies, whether it be sound healing that works so powerfully, or the essential oils that bring you back into healing frequencies. There's so many different ways, but now that's just a fraction of what you've said that maybe we can put it into perspective. Round it off for us.
Easy. The easiest way is, if it has a smell, we have no business having it in our house. Full stop. No business. It's not of God. It's of a very dark energy. Remove it. Take it out. Don't buy it again. Start harming Coles and Woolworths, IGA, chemists, pharmaceutical, even health food stores. Start harming those people that are selling us things that are causing discords in the body. Just quit straight away. Get rid of it. You don't need any of them. What we do need, though, is enzymes. Go from a detergent to an enzyme. You have a stain, put one of these on it. They're enzymes. It'll get rid of the stain. Just gone from white dress. It'll disappear. They're not detergents. Detergents make fat soluble with water. What are our cells? Phospholipid layer of fat, predominantly omega-3s and a bit of omega-6 and saturated fats. Why do we want detergents in there? To break them open and spew the contents out into the bloodstream, causing issues. We don't want detergents in our life. People have spraying Roundup. Councils and governments are using Roundup everywhere, right? And again, if you have certain gene SNPs, Roundup is going to cause cancer. If you don't have those gene SNPs, your body can burn them off with the glutathione that's actually there to burn off those chemicals, and it won't affect you. And by the way, to build your glutathione levels up, lemongrass, copaiba, and peppermint is the glutathione bomb. It builds glutathione. It stimulates the redox signaling molecules and the nuclear factor 2, NRF2, right down in the orthogonal centrioles in the center of the nucleus of the cell to produce glutathione. We need glutathione to get rid of heavy metals and toxic chemicals out of our bodies. We need thyme oil to get the plaque out of our brains to stop dementia. This is so important. Thyme oil is such an important oil. No one knows this information. This is what you call truth. Truth we need. We don't need lies. And if you want to stop dementia, you start taking thyme oil internally. You take 7 or 8 drops a day. I do it. I do it constantly. And I don't want dementia.
Well, Inner Defense.
Inner Defense has it in it as well. Inner Defense has thyme oil in it. Yeah. It's got thyme, oregano, and lemon and rosemary, and there's a lot of Inner Defense. No, sorry, I'm talking about Inner Defense, correct. It has a lot of antibiotic products. Yeah. So yeah,
I think my internet's cutting in and out now, but we do need to wrap it up. It's been amazing and a lot of information. We need to do is have a follow-up. Wilma said, can we have a follow-up conversation?
We can do a fat talk. Omega-3, omega-6, omega-9s. That's an important subject so people can understand what the heck they are. Because there's too much confusion around 3, 6, and 9.
Amazing. Well, let's not dive into it now. We'll dive into it in the next conversation. So we'll have you back, Alan. We'll get more into those good things before my internet actually dies and I lose you. Thank you, Alan. That was an amazing presentation. Thanks so much for being here. And we will be back next week. We have our amazing farmer from the USA, Dan Kittredge, talking about regenerative soil. So that's where all the goodness is in the soil. So we get that right, we can heal our bodies too. So join us next Tuesday for that conversation. And thank you everyone for being here.